Welcome to video 11, Political Labels. There are countless names used to describe different political positions and beliefs. Let's try to define some of them. Classical liberal, the one who believes in true liberty and small government. The founding fathers were classical liberals. They were the product of the Age of Enlightenment. Progressives. These started at the turn of the 20th century. They were the American counterpart to the European Fabian socialists. Do your homework, check out Anglo-European Fabian socialists. After their disastrous policies of the early 1900s, such as prohibition, which gave organized crime the biggest boost in history, progressives decided to appropriate the term liberal. So true liberals started using the term libertarian. Conservatives are also strong proponents of individual liberty, small government, fiscal responsibility, and respect for the Constitution. Their core set of values and beliefs is more connected with religious belief, as they tend to be people of strong faith. After all this analysis and explanation of political spectrum, with totalitarian ideologies on one end and anarchy and chaos on the other, can you truly accept the idea that conservatives can be considered Nazis or fascists? Conservatives, libertarians, constitutionalists, and true classical liberals believe that freedom and liberty are God-given individual rights. That government should be as small and unobtrusive as possible, and that the Constitution has to be respected as the supreme law of the land. The supposed mainstream characterizes conservatives as fascists or Nazis, as part of a vast right-wing conspiracy, as the extreme right wing of the Republican Party. Do you see how ridiculous this is? How it contradicts common sense? Libertarians/conservatives are the middle, the common sense Americans who are connected with and truly understand the founding principles of this nation. They are the ones who would be recognized by the founders as their political descendants and fellow citizens. Nazis and fascists believe in the opposite, statism, the state as supreme. Individuals do not matter to them. They are to be controlled by force. Let your own common sense decide. Unleash your power of reason. Shake off all your preconceived notions and all you've heard on this subject before. Ask yourself, with total honesty, does it really make sense to equate the conservative frame of mind after what we have discussed with fascism and Nazism? So how did this happen? How did we get to this blatant distortion of the facts and to the point where these characterizations are accepted as mainstream? Well, during World War II, the Soviet Union was considered an ally. Stalin did fight against Nazi Germany, with us and with Britain. As we mentioned before, not because of major ideological differences with Hitler's National Socialism, but because of pure lust for power. Then the Cold War came along, and the communists, the socialists, and the progressives, modern-day liberals, cleverly started labeling anybody who was against their ideologies as a Nazi or a fascist, or using the fact that Hitler and Mussolini fought against them in the war. How convenient for them to pin such negatively charged descriptions on true classical liberals, modern libertarians, and conservatives. A bit of trivia. That's not so trivial, though. The terms left and right, used to describe political ideologies, were first coined during the French Revolution, 1780s. This is after 1776, the founding of the Declaration of Independence. That's why we said that these characterizations had no meaning for the founders. Now, this had to do with the sitting arrangements in the French Parliament. Those sitting on the right favor the continuation of monarchy, the power of the aristocracy, and the state's official church. The ones on the left, sitting on the left of the chamber, opposed it. Do you see how it makes no sense to use the terminology to refer to the conservatives in this country? The terms kept being used, and by the 20th century had morphed into what we know today as communist socialism on the left, conservatism, fascism, Nazism on the right. It makes no sense, does it? Sorry, I digress considerably. With all of these political systems on one side and anarchy or complete chaos and breakdown of all political social structures on the other, we are left with the lonely representative republic in the middle. The political pendulum throughout history has always swung between the two extremes. The founders of this nation knew this, and the brilliance of their design is that they came up with the best way to pin down that pendulum at the point where you would have the right mixture of government power under constant check and restraint and the most individual liberty possible. Keeping this balance is not easy, and they knew it. Read the correspondence between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, which they kept up until later in their lives. And their hope was that there would be enough people paying attention and they would be able to correct the mistakes which would inevitably be made. In the last few paragraphs, we covered a huge amount of information and history compressed into a minimum possible expression. We barely scratched the surface. What I'd like you to get out of it is this. There are two diametrically opposing ways to view the social animal we call the human being. One sees humans as incapable of self-determination, as unable to govern themselves. This leads to the conclusion that there has to be an elite composed of the intelligent and the educated few, in charge of the decision-making and of the governing from a centralized bureaucracy in a top-down fashion. The masses need to be controlled and told what to do. The opposite point of view, the one held by the Founding Fathers, sees the human animal as holding a special place in the structure of the universe. By virtue of the capacity of self-consciousness, self-awareness, and reason, we as individuals deserve to be respected and given the chance to chart our own course, to exercise our free will and our right to self-governance. In order to achieve this, a system has to be in place that allows the most individual freedom while protecting us from the abuse we can inflict on each other. This system, therefore, has to be based on the rule of law, the Constitution being the supreme law. The word republic comes from the Latin res publica, the public thing, the law. You may have heard the Constitution referred to as a sacred document inspired by God. I do not necessarily subscribe to that particular view in a literal sense. I don't think God came down from heaven and whispered in the ears of the guys gathered in Philadelphia in 1787. But there is an element of sacredness, of divine quality to it. It comes from the fact that we as individuals voluntarily decide to submit to it, and is designed to rule above every human being, no exceptions, although we humans are the ones who created it. When viewed in this way, the Constitution acquires a well-deserved status above the ordinary and the mundane. See you next one.